the playground politics.
Yo.
Your weekly fix of all things fuckery and footwear.
That's a pretty good tagline.
I just came up top of the head, man. That's what I do.
10 episodes in now with our first guest.
Yes.
I'm your host, Rack. To my right for this time is the illustrious
Francis COYLE, the crispiest.
And to the left, our first guest, Mr. Evan Kaucher.
Mr. LeBron James.
What a handsome fellow. Thank you for joining us today, Evan, on our 10th episode and our first guest. I've been doing a lot of background work here to learn how to interview people. I'm a little rusty there, but we're going to get through it.
I think you're going to do okay, dude. As being the guy in charge of the ship, the A-Mic, I think you're going to do a really good job. We're
going to see what we can do, and if it does come out good, I'll take all the credit. Evan.
Of course.
To my left, please introduce yourself to the people. Let them know who you are and what you do.
My name is Evan Kaucher. I'm a product photographer, and some people would pin me as a sneaker photographer, which kind of just fell into my life at one point. At one point.
A photographer for sure. Everybody who works in the arts got to get paid, right? So
yeah,
product photographer by trade.
So yeah, I was. The audience for sneaker photography is awesome. Everyone cares about it, which is cool. Compared to other things like product photography within auto parts, where you're taking pictures of brake pads or tires, and it's
yo, that's gotta be a tough gig, dude. We got these Meineke coming up, man. It's gonna be big.
Yeah, I bet there's some interesting parts of that though, like what you know that they have to see and stuff like
free
that.
Winter tires, maybe.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Kind of roll off a lot.
the perks of the gig.
Yeah.
So if you're listening today, you might be familiar with Evan's work from the Lapstone Hammer account. So he's the primary or only photographer really for Lapstone Hammer.
You also might know me from Breads and Butters, which is my other account.
Yes, definitely plug that because that's an awesome
Breads,
account.
BRED, and Butters, BUTTERS.
It's a very interesting way to get some early looks at some hyped sneakers.
All jokes aside, I just want to say I looked at your Instagram, dude. You're fucking really good.
Thank you.
Taking pictures, bro.
Thank you. I always say I hope so because that's what I do for a living.
No, but I really I was looking at a couple of the pics and they're dope. Go check out his Instagram too.
Yeah, that's evan.coucher.com.
Yeah, EVAN.KAUCHER.
Dude, I love that you spelled Evan for the listener that would have got stuck on that part.
Dude, some people call me Kevin.
Confused.
I mean, David calls me Aven, like spelled it AVEN. I love that though. I love a good foreign name.
I love that. So obviously I know Evan from working with Lapstone, but the reason we thought he'd make a really good guest is because he's extremely talented. He's insanely interesting, and he's somebody that you should know about. I like that he's like kind of behind the scenes. I think he does too, but it's kind of cool to give him a platform or all of us a platform to talk about some of the stuff that happens behind the scene. And then of course we'll go wild and talk about whatever the hell we want.
Absolutely.
Right? So kick it off. I know Evan. So COYLE, why don't you kick it off with a question?
All right. So for people out there, photography is kind of something that everybody does now because everybody has a phone, right? Everybody thinks that they are a photographer almost. So it's like the photographer has almost become like everybody plays basketball, but not everybody is an NBA basketball player, right? So like when I see a lot of these, like everybody goes through Instagram, right? It's addicting. You just keep flipping and flipping and flipping. And then you come across a person's page who actually knows how to take photographs. And it's just different. Do you think that there's any tips, like for me, for example, lighting, I'm all fucked up. Like I have no idea, dude. I just open the blinds and hope that I got lighting. Like that's my extent of it. Like that's why my YouTube career kind of tanked. I hear about light rings and light boxes and light fuckery. I have no idea. So
that stuff might be heavy though. But what's like 3 to 4 tips that like your average guy is doing wrong?
The number one thing I always tell people is just to go take bad photos. Take bad photos because the number one thing about photography is just problem solving and figuring it out and being in situations where like, oh, I did this before and I fucked up here. Can I curse?
Yeah, you absolutely.
Oh, yeah, dude, absolutely.
I don't know.
The kids love it.
But it's just like this is where I messed up. I don't know how to handle this situation where you like someone asks you to do this, like, no, this is not going to work because I've done it before. And it's kind of like that's the thing that I've always been taught is just take as many bad photos as you can because they're free now.
Yeah, there's no film. Oh yeah,
they're like back like that's and I take film photos and I kind of like that where it's like one and done and I can't do anything about it.
Right.
And plus you get like the roll of 36 back and you're like that feeling as a kid again of like not knowing what you took, or you went on a trip somewhere. It's a combination of like 3 trips. You're like, holy shit. Like I forgot I was playing blackjack in Miami.
Dude, he pulled out this, this set of photos from like 7 months earlier, and they were so sick, and they were captured on film, which is like such a unique thing. So obviously, tip 1, trial and error. Get out there and learn how things
Scrape
work.
your knee.
And take as many photos as possible and just see how it works, and then go into Lightroom or whatever editing software and like fuck around with all the dials and just see what works. Because I can go back to my old photos now and I hate them. Like it almost as
dude. Not to put a tip in your mouth, but
not to put the tip in your mouth.
Pause, dude.
Wow.
Jesus Christ. So
roasted. Hazelnuts.
You mentioned Lightroom, and a question that I get a lot is like, what camera, or what app, or people really think it's the tools sometimes.
Yeah.
And you know
not.
better, I know better, he knows better. But what are some things? Because I think you'll have a great answer here, and I think it'll help a lot of people. What are some dials or settings or things in Lightroom or those common apps, Visco, etc., that you just see overused and like people don't realize like, oh, you should have been way more subtle with clarity, for example?
I mean, if you don't over clarify, I actually never touch the clarity button. The HDR effect obviously is long and gone, but I mean, everyone goes through that phase. A lot of people say they go through the phase of HDR, which is just over clarity, and then color blocking things where things are black and white and then some things are color. But like, those are the 2 phases that you go through when you're just like messing around because you don't know where to start. But getting too contrasty, I mean, you just in the end, it's like your own style. So like maybe that is someone's style.
But
like,
do you know of one off the top of your head that just screams amateur? Like that you're just like, you're flipping through and you're just like, oh, that guy.
I mean, it's the whole hype beastie look of, I don't know like exactly like of what it is, but it's just like when stuff starts blending together and you can't differentiate like certain people, then you're like, okay, then everything's becoming the same thing.
Like kind of raise the shadows and fade it out.
Yeah. Or I mean, there's that whole like 3D thing with the film camera also that everyone took over. And the funny thing is like I love that. Like a couple like 3 years ago, and I saw Carhartt Whip actually do it with skateboard. And I was like, how do they do this? How do they do this? And eventually like it finally leaks, and then everyone starts buying that film camera, and then everyone starts doing that.
Right, I hear you.
And there's like fads of that, and it's fine, and everything's cool, and like it's like the whole. Hey, are you like mad about iPhone cameras or iPhone anything? And like, no, it's like, it's a tool. Use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't use it and you're that old man of like, oh, I'm not going to do this, blah, blah, blah. Like you're going to fall behind.
There's a quote, and I don't know who to credit it to, but that the best camera is the camera you have on you, right?
100%.
When you need it.
I mean, obviously the right tools also have cheat codes and make things a lot better. But the best thing is doing like, I don't know. I started off doing like using a projector screen as my seamless backdrop for product photography. It's like the ghetto way of doing things makes it so much easier later on in life when you have the professional equipment.
Yeah, right.
I'm using like spatulas to hold up things. Like it was just like in my living room on a nail on the floor and like a hot shoe flash. And that's how I started product photography.
That's awesome. How about a couple just really almost so that we could walk away from this part of the conversation, but like what are 2 more like tangible, specifically sneaker things? Like, oh, I don't know, don't have them laced so tight or whatever, something that you think
the
really
lacing,
helps.
It's the stuffing. It's like if you see a shoe, what does it look like on someone's foot? Not like the choked up look or the floppy tongue. It's like shove your sock in there or something, or just have like the silhouette that everyone like likes about it.
Yeah, for example, I'll say one thing that I definitely don't like to see on my timeline is like, or it's not that I don't like it, but it doesn't make for a good photo, is when they just like take it out of the box and sometimes the tongue is sort of like collapsed out of view. So when they take a profile shot of it, it's like not propped where it would be.
Then you don't know if they're gonna wear it or they're gonna resell it, because if you're gonna resell it, you're not gonna fuck with it.
Yeah, right? You're not gonna really care too much.
You're not really gonna be like, well, you're not gonna mess with the laces or take the things off. Like
StockX is really tricky with selling shit now too. Like they don't want shit unlaced. Like they're crazy right now.
Sense. I mean, I don't know.
Well, there is a few tips, and I'm sure we'll get around to a few more. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is what's some stuff? I mean, obviously, product photography, I think you do enjoy it, and obviously, I think you do a fantastic job. But is there something that you like to photograph, like if you were gonna rent a gallery or have a show, what do you think would be the type of photography or the subject matter that you would go to
Besides
on your
sneakers,
own,
yeah.
in your creative space?
That's interesting. I mean, there's portraits, but I kind of just mess around with like that stuff. Like there's such deep levels that you can get involved with. But I like fine art or like staging stuff that's just weird. I mean, that's the thing I get to do with shoes, so it is kind of like the thing I like gravitate to.
Yeah.
But in general, like juxtaposition stuff or combining it all, I really wanted to get into like visual engineering with learning more so like mechanisms that can create triggers to throw stuff and all at the same time, and kind of use robots to like enhance. Well, a lot of the times. A lot of times people start copying your work, and it's fine, and we all start somewhere, and you go and you just see your stuff replicated, and then after a while it kind of gets annoying.
Right.
So that's why I started doing stop motion. It was like, okay, it was like you wanna copy it? Like try copying this. Just try. It's like you're not going to unless you have 24 hours to nerd out and be like OCD about something.
Right.
And then it's the same with that. It's like you're only gonna get these motions if you have robots doing things and like being able to trigger.
That's actually a really good tip. So add this to your list of tips, because it's definitely something that I subscribe to, and that's like go where it's hard to follow for sure.
For sure, it's worth it in the end. I mean,
it's a good way to stand out.
You go back to the first stop motion I did, which was the what was the Special Force AF1?
Oh, dude,
the camo one,
sick.
the tan one, when it first came out, the one that was like worth it.
Yeah.
Before
it came up and
ComplexCon.
tied around and all that.
And no, all I did was take the laces out and take the buckle off, which to show that it was like a whole entire thing.
And then I think for the high, didn't you like have it wrap around too? And
yeah.
Both times, by the way, because so our working relationship is that he creates content that then I get in front of as many eyes as possible. So Evan really makes my job easy, because blogs and brands and designers and people generally want to use his photos. So they're like excited to get my email instead of like, feeling like I'm spamming people or whatever.
Oh, for sure.
But in both cases, and in several cases in the time that we've worked together, the designer of the shoe in that case was like, wow, this is like the sickest media. I need this, send this to me, etc. So I'm only saying that really not to brag on you, but to just double down on that idea that like if you want something, go in your own way.
Get weird, dude.
Get weird.
I mean, we always talked about that. It's
I
like because I don't like. Not saying I don't come from like the sneaker background, but at times the materialistic stuff kind of bothers me.
Yeah.
And the fact is, I do like not making fun of it, but just making it weird because people really care about it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just, I want you to, like, my whole job is to make you stare at the photo longer than 10 seconds or 5 seconds at the most.
Yeah.
So the longer you stare at, I'm doing my job.
Yeah, so what Evan's talking about is conversations that we often have where like there's things about the photography, and you should definitely chime in on this as somebody that's just seeing it, right? Mm-hmm. There's things that you want to see from like your boutiques, and some of the things that I think we're very careful about is like, are the colors accurately represented? Mm-hmm. Can you make out the materials, right? Like when there's a very nice suede, for example, on a shoe, we want to accentuate that. Accessories, if they come with the release, that kind of stuff is what you're looking for, right?
I think certain pictures like really like I remember for Lapstone, I remember it was like throwaway pictures like Post Malone came to Lapstone, and these photos that came out were really dope, and it looked like they were just like they weren't set up at all, like it was just him hanging out. And
I'll tell you that story.
But they appeared like it's weird in a way, set up but not. Like they look so good that I was like, damn, dude, like that's a fucking dope. Like there's a couple dope flicks where he's just no facial expression. The dude's got crazy tattoos on his dome piece, and I was like, wow, that's really creative. And
we should tell a little of that story, because that was a fun story that we both worked on. But before we get there, I would say the other end. So that's the sort of stuff. I'm glad that stuck out to you. But back to the sneaker photography for a second. That's the kind of stuff that, there. I won't name other boutiques by name, but there's some boutiques,
I will.
There's some boutiques that have like a reputation for very inaccurate colors, right? Like the filter.
Yo, I'm not even gonna say that brand, but they make shit look amazing.
No matter what it is, right? But it's inaccurate. So one of the things I know that Evan and I have always talked about and focused on is like some level of accuracy for the customer.
Well, when you open the box, when you get it at home, you're like, what is this?
But then I would say the aesthetic from there is weird, right? That's what we've always said. Like, let's try to get
because, like I said, everything blends together.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what's the point of that? You just want to be the same thing over and over again. You're going through account on an account, but it's like, I wanted it so you hit our account, like, oh, I know who this is. Like,
and I want to say, like, as somebody that knows Evan well, we've been working together and we've been friends and we've traveled together for years. But
they've been lovers for 7 years.
Thank you. That was mine to tell people. No, but one of the things I want to try to sort of explain from my point of view to the audience is a little bit about your aesthetic. So to me, like, your aesthetic is that you have I believe that you have a very, very high taste level. And I think that you've always, dressed well and put together good, put together good
Here come the
looks.
compliments.
No, but even the layout. So like we work in trios in Lapstone, so you've got to take 3 photos, right?
Okay.
So it's not the primary
so
goal
it
of
goes
a
across the line.
Yeah,
That's
a lot of
dope.
times in photography, like you're trying to get the shot. This
Yeah, that's
guy's got to
dope.
get
No,
at
I
least
like
3.
that. I like
that work really well
like that.
together.
Yeah.
And so I would say the way that you achieve that, or the way that I would define your aesthetic, is that like you end up in this place that's really easily consumable. It's not hard to understand. It works in that 15 seconds you have before someone flicks away from it, right?
Yeah.
But the ways that you get there and the ideas that you have are definitely usually pretty far out, right?
yeah, you try to, and then sometimes you're like, why am I on the same thing again? Like, why? I was like, well, this shoe's gonna be gone next week.
One of my
it's
favorite
like,
shoots, and I can't even remember the sneaker, and I think that speaks a lot to the shoot, was you just made people like stop motion step on ramen, and the ramen matched the shoe. But it was cool. It was really cool to me how it was like seamless, and it was a shoe that I didn't really feel like we had a lot we wanted to say about it.
No.
And so it was just like strange, and it caught your attention in that way.
Yeah.
But as weird as it sounds in audio, go find that photo. It's not as strange to look at.
go find-
Was it on Lapstone?
Yeah.
It's a while ago.
see
But the thing is the best part is the fact of people commenting. It's like, oh, what a waste of food. I ate that ramen.
He ate that ramen. Those were
after
clean
it stepped
sneakers.
on.
Don't worry about
It's
it.
not even real food. Ramen isn't real food.
Yo, there's people that can fix shit with ramen now. There are all these
true,
videos
yeah.
of like
Fix
people
your stomach.
spackling and
Spackling
like
your stomach.
filling in holes in floors. Dead serious. They add- seriously, yo, it's crazy.
That's
A lot of
insane.
people, but I love reading those comments. They're like, I did
Yeah.
something with tinfoil the one time. They're like, that's a waste of tinfoil.
You
I'm
can't
like,
win,
Yeah.
dude. No, you can't win.
No, I was like, no, I reused it.
I
Waste of
imagine the
tinfoil.
comments are a lot more fun as the photographer than as the manager of the account, for sure. Because I get a lot of, I don't even look at them because it's like, what time does it come out? 10 a.m. Like it says in the fucking second line of the caption.
My favorite one was, what store is this?
What's I said first come first serve, and homie goes, at what store?
It's like the count. They
At
count.
our store. What the hell? Anyway, yeah, we won't get into my end of it. That's probably a less interesting and
But
more annoying story.
like for instance, you take the last Jordan SB High that was
Right.
like a the skateboard, like the reveal the layer one, and
oh yeah, that was
dude,
great.
and you could just tell that everyone was going to take it down that skateboard route.
Right,
And I was
right.
like, dude, stay away from the skateboard route. Stay away from the skateboard route. Like, please, as a skateboarder myself, it was very cringeworthy of any of that stuff coming out.
Particularly because, and I mean, all of us have said that sneaker didn't necessarily belong in Lapstone and Hammer. Like we weren't like a skate. Like if we had gone that way, it would have been very inauthentic. I shouldn't say
general.
the shoe doesn't belong there. It was a release, that we did a
tier
good job
one.
with tier 1 release, but it was
Tier 0, sorry.
Tier 0, yeah. Oh, so anyway, it was. They don't even know what that
Yeah,
means.
all right.
But anyway, but it was. It would have been inauthentic for us to suddenly been like, oh, so skateboard.
I just don't like that, and then but maybe that's just me also.
Right.
But the other thing is, like, I was like, all right, no, like, what can I do? This is very a cool shoe, and luckily, like, we didn't waste a pair of Jordan 1s because at least Brian was like fortunate enough to give me his pair. They already used, but the one side was clean,
Right.
And we figured out that if you take acetone, it comes off pretty easily. I tested the other side; it smudged, but I was like, all right. I'm gonna just try and look like I painted it on, and then show people the different color combos that you could get with this Jordan SB. If you only wanted to take that part and do it, and take that part, obviously I couldn't do it all.
Yeah,
but
it
it
was
was kind of like, it's just like customize your own stuff. Like
yeah.
And that's-
And when that hits my email as the stuff that I'm going to be working with, I look around at what everyone else has done, and a lot of people did really good with that particular shoe. But the greatest thing about yours is and this is exactly what I was trying to say, in a very concise way. Within 15 seconds, you got all of that information, and it was like visually interesting or weird or however you want to describe it, as opposed to like, here's one shoe with, it's unwiped, and then the opposite medial side wiped, and then, I saw a lot of stuff like that.
In the end, I'm guessing a lot of people stayed for the 15 seconds that it was and actually watched the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And
that's a great engagement on that.
Yeah. So that was just something where you have to just change up what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like the question I should answer is like, how did I get to this position?
Yeah, that's actually where I was hoping COYLE would take us. COYLE, as an outside guy who doesn't work anywhere in the industry, I can't ask these questions. I'll lead him too much. What do you want to know about being behind the scenes in the sneaker industry and maybe how to get there?
Basically, the question that I would like to ask.
Go for it.
We're ready for it.
But like, how do you get the job? Like I'm serious. Like, it's something that's so cool. Like, I was just looking at some of the flicks, right? And there was one. It looks like it's in like the Oriental section of a grocery store, and it's the Jordan 6.
They roast me in the comments for that, by the way.
Really? Yo, but it's dope. Like, the pepper things on the bottom, and like the little like Star Johns are coming through. Like, it's cool, dude.
It's a great shoe.
Yeah.
And there was a couple others, but I won't name names on the photographs. But my thing is like, do you like? So you're like, what do they call that? Like, you're like a free agent, right? Or are you specifically to Lapstone? Like, are you allowed to take pictures of whatever you want? Like,
yeah, I don't have a non-compete, so the whole thing is
so hit him up at Evan.Kaucher
at gmail.com. But no, Lapstone's one of my clients, and I've been with them since the start, 4 years. Yeah, I mean, that's the reason how I got the job in general is being, I knew the interior designer who designed the store, and then I knew the people that branded the store.
All right.
Right.
And I went in to just take portfolio photos of the shop, and then Brian came up to me and asked me if I did product photography, and I came through and yada yada. I was able to do both, but that's another thing of like.
And we're so happy to have him.
Well, you have to do the dumb stuff to get the job to do the cool stuff,
dude. Even and I work at this point, I work with Lapstone in a very similar way.
Me too.
And
a Jace.
You earn it to an extent, right? Like in the very beginning, for example, I happen to know you shot everything for both the parent company and Lapstone and Ecom and.
That's
and they pay
but paying your dues, I think, is I'm trying to lead you to maybe like, hey, kids, you gotta fucking.
Do you like Primus?
It's the same thing I told Fortis. It's the same thing I told every photographer that we had here. Eddie Lee was my assistant, who's the head photographer of Hypebeast. Shout out to Eddie Lee, my boy.
Love Eddie.
But I told him, I was like, learn the dumb stuff. Like, learn how to cut out white. Learn how to do ecom. Learn how to do. Like be a Switch Army blade of whatever talent, because if someone's like, oh, can you do this? You say yes.
So what he's talking about for the audience and for COYLE, who's looking to get a clear answer here, is the stuff that we like generally as a creative organic. You don't want to do. It's the work. Yeah. It's the work part of it. Well, it's not the artsy fun thing. It's like I'm cutting this fucking thing out.
I have one more question.
What's up?
There's this dude on Instagram. I won't mention his name. One major question. He always has these half-naked chicks on it. So photographers, you guys, legend has it, you guys do pretty well in I hate that stereotype. In the field.
Dude, it makes you just feel like
you don't shoot models a lot though.
No, I mean I have for Inked Mag and stuff like that, but it's just
shout out Sammy.
Yeah, shout out Sammy. No, but it's like that also does not benefit you because it gives you this title of like one dude's a creep or doing something dumb, and then it's put on all of you. And I kind of like to stay away from that because it's just kind of like, dude, like it's
dude. It's funny because it kind of feels like almost just being a man in a position of power makes you feel that way. Like I had somebody reach out for sort of like unsolicited advice, was like, hey, I bet you would normally charge consulting or whatever, but I just have a few questions if that's okay. And like my first thing was like, anything I say is strictly professional and blah blah blah. Like you know what I mean? Because I've got this attractive female in my DMs asking me questions like from from a position of like I'm looking to learn from you, right? So the first thing I say is
Teach
I'm
me
like,
things.
yes, and then let's get very formal very quickly.
Yeah, it's because chicks and kicks is usually a whole thing.
Yeah, dude, boobs are like
It
sex
is,
cells.
dude.
yeah.
Like basically naked except for Jordans is probably the uniform.
Yeah, you'll never see that on anything that Evan or I work on. That's for sure.
And I've one serious one. One serious one. I was a graffiti artist growing up, a terrible one, but I grew up around it, right? And we used to get the disposable cameras and just like flick them out, like, and we would kind of like lose them and ditch them, and like I'd find them years later, and I regret not taking more photos growing up, right? But one of my friends was a girl named Stephanie. Shout out Stephanie. She always had a
wish
camera.
you had more photos of her.
No, just she has photos of us, but I don't get to see him. Hey, I don't get to see him as much as I want. Like, do you like have a back catalog of like grown up photos, and like, do you ever find like the old disposable? It's like Russian roulette. When you go to drop it off, you don't know if it's a bunch of duds. You don't know if it's one day you were drunk.
That's shooting film, period.
Yeah, like it's so dope to like actually get a gem, because in graffiti they call them hard copies, and to have, because graffiti gets buffed, right? It gets painted over, the paint fades, but to have like a nice clean shot of like maybe one of your friends that passed away, or there's these like infamous walls in Philly, Fifth and Cecil B, like the Reservoir, like there are these spots that are like really legendary, and to have physical hard copies of the work that are in it's priceless because it's gone.
Yeah. So do you have some like Grail photos that you've taken or found, or?
I mean, I guess Grail photos. I mean, that's kind of interesting.
Trying to talk like the kids.
Like, like personally, like I started photography when the Phillies won the World Series, and I took photos of the whole entire riot down like there. So there's people throwing things, people on buses, and that was like my first introduction to.
Yo, do you have those in formats that you could like, do real good stuff with now?
I really hope I didn't like mess it up in like an iPhoto library. I have it. I think I went through it, but for some reason they're like super small, and I have to figure it out. But
you also did a fantastic job covering the Eagles championship for people who don't.
That was all filmed too, and I actually. Check if you have memory cards in your camera, because that was the one where I had my digital and I didn't have a memory card, but then I just shut all film from it. And
you have one on I'm trying to remember the scenario of someone's getting like picked up off the ground or something.
I think it was a little kid dancing.
Yeah. They're just like around him. That's what it is.
It was like a block party.
It's a hell of a
Go
photo,
Eagles,
though.
baby. Go Birds.
Birds. I'm a Giants fan, but whatever. When in Rome.
What? Sorry.
I know.
But the cool thing is I still use my mom's film camera that she got in college. So she gifted that to me, and she was involved with that. Shout out to Sherry Kaucher, Allen High School. Yeah.
I'm not going to shout your mom out. That seems
I was going over, and then I was like, yo, like respect.
She taught me a lot with art and everything like that. So
so everything I know about your parents is that they're a little, is it safe to say, far out or not traditional?
Yeah. Well, my dad was described himself. He was like, "Yeah, I was a hayman in high school." I'm like, "What's a hayman?" He's like, "Hey, man."
My kind of dude, man.
But they've got property like
my dad's
overseas.
My dad's a stonemason. I grew up in the Virgin Islands for a little part of my life, so my mom bartended.
Subtle flex.
And my dad built a house. I mean, I didn't.
Your mother does really awesome mosaic artwork, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's been dealing 25 years in the school system. That's hard to deal with.
Right.
But no, I didn't get it as a kid living down there. I wanted to be back home playing with my friends, doing everything
I know
like
that life for sure.
But then now it's worth so much more now as a grown up and everything like that.
But do you credit some of your creativity to your parents and the non-traditional upbringing? 100%. Like I know his dad, for example, Coyle, peep this. He gets into skateboarding. His dad builds like a totally unauthorized skate park.
Yeah, we would go.
So much respect for that.
We would go around to the dumpsters dive, and just pull the plywood out, because my dad's like, "I'm not paying for plywood." Like, I'm not
That's so G.
Isn't that gangster?
That's gangster shit.
So we go around and we built a whole entire thing. It's just like it would go onto the shed roof and go onto. It's like that's how I learned to do construction and build out framing of like.
Isn't it crazy the lengths?
So then his place became like a spot. We have like a behind the scenes inside joke real quick. Go to Evan's house. Like come to my house. You have to come to my house.
You need to see this.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway.
No, but parents, the lengths that they go, like I didn't, my dad wasn't around when I was growing up, so like sad story. But no, like I remember all these kids were playing baseball and I didn't have anybody to show me how to play, like for real.
You didn't know the rules.
And my grandfather did the same thing. He was like, well, we went to Modell's or Gold Medal and he was looking at the prices of like the bats and shit, like, and he was like, I got this. Like, he's in the garage and I hear all this noise, like, and I come out and he whittled me a baseball bat out of an old piece of plywood and he spray painted it the color of the bat that I liked that was at the sporting goods store.
Dude, straight bootleg.
He made a handle. He made a handle. He wrote my name on it. And here's the fucked up part. I hated it. All
you
my
were
all
kids,
friends.
though? Like, I
We were
hate
all
those
shitty kids.
Well,
We were
all my
all
friends
shitty
were
kids.
playing. They were using aluminum bats.
Yeah.
So I couldn't use it. And but looking back, I still have that bat, and I thank God today that I had my grandfather in my life, and like that is just a like, dude, he cut himself like, yo, there's no lengths a parent or guardian won't go to make a kid happy, and I think that rubs off on you, and I think like it doesn't matter who it is in your life that does that, but that shit is so, it's like goosebumps, tingly worthy, like that's dope.
Dude, it's funny because my mother was the parent that would sort of facilitate my every dream and fantasy. And then I credit a lot of my success actually to my father, who like refused to play along. He was like, no, you won't make it to the NBA. You'll barely be 6 foot. You know, like no matter how good at basketball.
That was real advice.
No matter how good at basketball I got. Or like,
hurts.
I remember being like having a similar story with the baseball bat, like really wanting LA Gears. And my dad's got like really good style. So my dad would be like, shoes that like bounce and light up are fucking super tacky. Like you'll regret.
He was giving you
you'll
the
regret.
real.
It was so real. So I remember like having a real tantrum in Jordans. You know what I'm saying? Like in better sneakers because I wanted LA Lights, but my dad in the long run was right. So I think everybody is sort of like to some extent a product of, you know, of their parenting. And my parents were polar opposites in that way for sure. But it sounds like you had like a really creative, like, hey, have fun, break stuff.
They didn't, they never,
weird.
I mean, I guess it was just like, they always never told me what to do. And they knew that. Like, and the thing is, I never got like, not like I never got in trouble. I just never got caught.
There you go.
I got caught a couple of times.
That is the lesson of life, man.
The one story was, this kid, one of my best friends, his girlfriend cheated on him.
Oh yeah.
So we took that person's mailbox that was like a $300 horse aluminum mailbox, and we ripped it out. We ripped it out of the ground and then brought it to my house and then beat the shit out of it for some reason.
That's
Because you
amazing.
need to. That's why.
Yeah, but then my dad found it, like put it all
Just see you
together.
beating this fucking mailbox. This bitch.
How could you?
Yeah, dude, I don't know.
We were gonna get married.
I gave you everything.
I gave you my soul.
But it was just like a whole thing in school where there was this whole series of things where like kids were just knocking down mailboxes like nonstop. Like it was like at least our neighbors was 5 times in a row. So one time our neighbor just put a video camera out and then they hunted it down and they found the person that did it. And then my dad and my neighbor like went and confronted these people. And my dad has like photos of them. Like I don't know, he was just like taking photos. I
got you a film.
Yeah, and it was just like, I don't know. It was
It's
just,
all about photography.
it was like all about it was like we were taking someone's girl back in high school and they hated us. I don't know.
Dude, high school relationships and breakups are the funniest shit on earth.
Because at the time, it's earth shattering. And
Dude,
look
can you
back-
imagine being your parents? Like, I remember my parents
Like
being
laughing.
like, Anthony, this is nothing.
Yo, you are literally
You're
15.
fine.
Yeah, but my parents bring it up today now. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, remember when you wanted blah, blah, blah to live at the house because she's
That is
She
such
was
a
your
good call.
everything.
I
Yeah.
was like, you
I'm
know what would be
cringing
cool
now.
if she moved in? We're definitely getting married.
It's so funny, too, when it becomes, like, really real. Like, my first real bad breakup was actually horrible. Like, if off camera I told you some of the story, you'd be like, oh, no, that's
Like, that's dead ass.
that's ratchet
fucked up.
now.
Yeah.
But I was also like unexperienced, so it was like extremely painful or whatever. And I remember my dad saying like, yo, you will remember so little about this one day. And now like I know the girl's first and last name, but I had a hard time remembering her brother's name a couple years ago. I don't remember her birthday. I don't remember how long we dated. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You just become so detached from it.
Well, normally when I'm parked outside of my ex's house, like I usually do that, I like to just like go through her trash And I usually just pick out like what she's into at the time, and then I go get that stuff.
And then you just kind of put it on Instagram.
I just live vicariously through our waist.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Very good way to be.
Yeah.
Those breakups are hilarious, though.
It's a guarantee. It's a guarantee.
Evan, tell us the wildest thing you ever did to try to like hold on to an early relationship.
I thought you were just going to
took way too seriously.
I thought that question was going to be like, yo.
No, but you've heard the stories like
fucked up shit you've ever done in your life.
You've heard the stories of like ex-girlfriends pretending they have cancer so that you'd like.
Yo, that is. You know
what? No, I've definitely heard that.
That
like,
is a
for
twist.
Real.
I know, like the I'm pregnant shit used to be like the move.
Pregnant's a big one.
Yeah, I got it. I got
what you got? All right, let's go.
Once. No, I just got the hey, I'm pregnant. I'm like, no, you're not. I was like, show me it. Show me it.
Show me
I was like,
it.
and then she's like, I threw it away. I was like, no, yeah, you're a liar. I was like,
oh Jesus!
No,
but what about you acting out of pocket? You lost somebody, and you were like, "What's your boombox over your head moment?" Everyone's got
singer in a smoky room.
I really
smell wine, cheap perfume.
I really can't.
Damn, dude, hit a note.
I think it's just like one of those like the most embarrassing thing would be like a late night text message that never gets a response. Like,
and it's just hanging out there like the last leaf on a tree in fall.
But it
just hanging.
As far as that, like I don't know. Like the one in high school like lasted for like how long, but it was just kind of like I got that out of my phase and like it was just kind of the first girlfriend. It was weird. I was like, I was allowed to sleep at her house. Her parents didn't care.
Hey.
Oh,
like,
their fault.
Yeah. Hey. Like that's kind of, I don't know if I would ever do that.
Hey, I could see you getting attached.
No, but it was like completely opposite of what I wanted now. It's just kind of, I look back at it and I was like, what No, it was the whole, I think my mom, like I said, my mom brings up, remember when you wanted her to move in? And I'm like, fuck you, mom.
What about you, COYLE? What's your cringiest post-breakup behavior? It doesn't have to necessarily be like pining for love. Like maybe it just spun you out.
I can remember one of my first major girlfriends. We broke up. It was a time in my life where I could have gone either way. But let's just say that narcotics were heavily present in my life at the time. I was more like, I was kind of like Henry Hill when the helicopters were going.
Okay.
That was me at the time. And I thought that like I had the world on a string. I was skinny, right? But I thought it was awesome. Like I'm like 180 pounds. I've never been 180 pounds, by the way, guys. Like I was born
healthy.
I was born at $2, right? Yeah. So I'm 180, and I'm thinking.
Doctor just shook your hand.
Yeah, as
instead
I'm walking,
of spanking you, it was just like, hey,
when
Mike.
I'm walking down the street, I hear like knowing nowhere.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so I'm like thinking, and then I looked like shit, though. I was heavily addicted to cocaine. Okay. I was an absolute mess, right? I was on the verge of being homeless and going to jail.
Yeah.
And I thought thought I was a great boyfriend, dude. Thought there was no reason for us to break up.
Yeah.
And she had a formal. Now, a formal, for all you guys that don't know, is when your
you guys
girlfriend,
have never been invited.
When your girlfriend's in a sorority.
Okay.
And they have these big, like, prom-type settings, right? So, I show up fashionably late by 2 hours late, and she's there with another guy.
Fucking.
Yeah, the nerve of this chick, right?
All you were doing was a lot of coke.
Seriously. And I had been... I had
12?
I had already been finagling with another. Oh. Dun, dun, dun. But no, I was actually upset that that she had moved on so quickly, because I thought, like, I'm me, right?
I'm allowed to do that.
You can't, me?
Yeah.
You moved on so quickly from moi? Like,
dude.
Yeah, like the nerve of me, right? The nerve of her to do that. But yeah, I was.
So did you get all reclamped?
I was verklempt.
Were you all in her shit?
Dude, I think I walked home from to Mayfair from I can't explain to you guys. You guys are all over the world. Yeah. Shout out to my people in Austria, by the way. I know we have mad listeners over there.
Tons of Austrians.
Yeah. So let's just say it was far, dude. And I walked home in my Today's Man suit that I had just bought that day for this formal, right?
Just to get shit on.
Just to get destroyed. Nice. And to this day, I don't know what she's up to, but I hope she's doing well. And I hope the gentleman that she was there with,
they're still together, dude.
Yeah, I hope he's in a puddle somewhere.
Oh,
in Alabama.
dude, no.
Yeah,
no.
Yes. No,
I would say
I actually really like that dude. So
the most embarrassing thing about my answer to this question would be that it's just pretty recent. Like it's the last break up before my current girlfriend, which I guess I've been with my girlfriend for like almost 10 years, so it's not that recent. But she was just you ever been with a girl that you like, no matter how bad you're doing, you know you've elevated her life to some extent, like you've helped her? You ever had that feeling like that? Like it's kind of like a
relationship I've ever been in.
Captain Save-A-Ho,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And
The project.
I was just like, yeah.
The project.
Dude, I just woke up and was just like, nah, this is not gonna happen anymore. You know, she was like smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day on my dime, like watching Maury all day, not walking the dog, while I'm, you know, she was just a fucking really sucked the energy out of me.
What you doing all day?
Yeah, it was terrible.
You come home, the house is all disheveled.
So my breakup story there was literally, I was just like, okay, you have to go. And she went. And then I was like, oh, I don't know if you've ever had a similar situation, but I was just like, oh, I don't want any of this. Like, I don't want to live here. I don't want any of these things that we accumulate.
None of this
like,
is okay.
Like, I didn't, now that she's gone, like, I don't want any of this. So I started to just lob shit out of the window of my apartment. And then, like, as I created a fucking significant problem outside, I was just like, oh, I just won't live here. And I went to my aunt's house and was just like, I'm going to be crashing in the basement with just this stuff. And so somewhere on Staten Island, legit, a guy who rented me this home, like came to his place, I guess to get rent or whatever, would have been a couple weeks later. And there was just this problem for him. And I just blocked the number and I was just like, started a new life.
Oh, now he's going to find you.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Mohammed, for having dealt with that. But yeah. So it's embarrassing to me that it was that recent. It was like in my mid 20s or whatever. But yeah, I just straight up like had enough of everything. I was like, nah, new job, new place, I don't need anything.
Isn't it amazing
This in 6 outfits, my computer will be fine. It was crazy.
But we can get used to some really tragic shit in our lives.
Dude, it was so bad. I literally gave my dog to my grandpa. I was like, no, I don't need this either. I need nothing.
Your dog was like, yo, you for real?
Yeah, my dog was literally like,
what shoes did you keep, though?
I had a pair of Air Max 90s on, and that's the only one I kept, I think. Oh, no, shout out to my buddy Eric. He came through and the countdown packs were going. Ooh. And he was just like, yo, here you go. Here's I think it was the 3 and 17 whatever.
Do you remember like the first friend that got an
3 and 20
apartment? Do you ever like remember that?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Dude, it happened way too young in my life. It happened way too young. I was like a sophomore and Chris had his own place. Like it was mad weird.
Dude, my one buddy had this apartment. He just used to rage, but he had a python and he lost it in the apartment.
That happens so much. Like pythons are known. Dude, look at the Everglades right now. It's overrun by all these snakes and shit.
That's great. I know.
Because they had a hurricane like 10 years ago and they had a like this building that used to house them all. Like say you have a pet python, right? And it gets too big for you, and you don't want to kill it, it's your pet, so you donate it to these people. Yeah. So they have the biggest and nastiest snakes, and it got flooded, and they all got out.
But they're eating gators.
Yeah, and now because
they're eating gators, and they gutted it, and there's a full blown deer in it.
Yo, dog,
that's crazy.
They did like a case study on like 100 square meters, like and there's no mammals.
Yo, have you ever been around a gator for real?
No.
But I told this story on the podcast before. I probably told you both independently, but I shared a room with an alligator for a very short time. Right? So my friend Najee, shout out to Najee, he gave me a couch to crash on at one point in my life, and he was raising them to a point, and then you would return them to the farm, and you would get paid, and he would take like an infant, right? So the only space that he had in his apartment was in this alligator room. It was like under UV light with a couch.
You're getting a tan.
And I like literally couldn't let any of my appendages hang off the couch even when I slept. So imagine being conscious of something like that and trying to sleep.
Can you just hypnotize them by flipping them over in the water?
I don't know if that's, belly? I don't know anything about that.
And I think that's a shark too. Sharks, you just kindly, you turn them over. That's what killer whales do when they eat the shark's liver. That's all they want. So killer whales, they bang into the side of them and they flip them on their back and then they eat their liver and roll out.
Dude, but what I wanted to say about an alligator though, because it'll create a better picture of them being eaten by these snakes, is that an alligator like only knows kill.
Yeah.
That's like it, bro.
Kill.
This thing used to just like sit on a rock and like bake
Yeah.
and stare at anything that moved.
Well, they
and
say-
just deciding, can I kill it, right?
They say the reason why they're such easy because they're not used to things fucking with them.
Dude, they literally don't think about anything
No.
else. Like it would be like, I can't kill him. Can't kill him. And then like one day, for example, we opened a door, a stray cat ran in, and it was like, can kill that, and did. That fast, bro. I'm saying jumped off the rock, went through its little kiddie pool, up and out, grabbed that shit by the neck, tackled it, pulled it in the water, and we were like, well, we can't do anything about that.
That's a game over.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
The
Like, but-
water's all bloody.
And we were literally sitting there like, we called this thing Mud. The alligator's name was Mud, right? And we were like, yo, Mud has been waiting to do something like that
Mud has
for
been
months.
chilling in wait.
Just in wait, like just knew that he couldn't do it to me. So
boy.
anyway, if you can imagine that kind of psychosis, getting killed by a fucking snake, just swallowing it whole.
But what I'm saying is we need to
Wow.
get J-Lo and Ice Cube down in the Everglades and let's get these snakes.
We can get this done.
Let's
We can get
these
this
done.
taken
They already
care
did it
of, dude.
before, man. Anaconda.
No
but
worries.
The pythons, they're less than an anaconda.
Much less than an anaconda, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's feasible.
It's feasible.
You could. There's a video of a dude looking for his dog. It's on YouTube, and his dog is a snake is completely wrapped around his dog.
Yeah.
He grabs the tail of it and starts trying to unravel the dog out of the snake. His buddy comes over and they're beating this thing with a stick. So finally, the guy runs over to the thing's head, and they're trying to pull the fucking thing apart. Anyway, they save their dog. You know what kind of love it is to attack an anaconda?
Dude, that's amazing. That's a beautiful, beautiful love.
Seriously.
It's a beautiful love.
Fucking right.
I think COYLE is going to beat us on this. And if you're listening and you're young, don't attempt anything you're hearing or seek what you're about to hear. But I was wondering, and I got the idea from like your homie that had his first apartment. Mm-hmm. What's like the wildest scenario you found yourself at the youngest age?
Holy shit.
Like, I know you're probably gonna have something nuts, but like for me, I'll go quick because mine isn't that nuts.
Yeah.
But I was like 12, and me, my little brother, and two of our friends who were brothers, we wanted to get into the office of the apartment buildings that we lived in, and my brother found that he could slide through this little like fucking section and get underneath one of the gated doors. And when he did, he was like, "Yo, every key to every apartment's in here." And so we ran home, like we left him in there, ran home, got a pillowcase. He just dumped all of the keys. And for months we were like little, like mini burglars. Like we wouldn't break anything. We would like, the Stevensons are leaving, and we'd like go and open their door with the key that we had and like grab a Coke and like eat some Cheez-Its. Like I swear to God, we didn't take money. We didn't take jewelry. We just had all this power. And I remember now that I think back about it, like it was a tremendous crime, like an insane crime. And
sure.
we were like very young. So maybe mine's not as wild as you guys, but like what's a situation you remember being like, man, I was far too young for this much wild shit?
Well, I grew up in like I call it Bumblefuck, PA, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
But we like only thing you could do is just drink and then party in fields and then do whatever. So there's like tons of that of like we used to do this thing called roof surfing. It was so fucking
Okay, this
dumb.
is sounding good.
No, shout out to Kyle Thrash who like fucking would do this. You would be driving the minivan, you get on the top of the roof, and then you'd see how long you could fucking surf on the top of it.
Holy shit.
We used to plot like a lot of the times there was always this cornfield in between this one road and my buddy's house, and we've always just wanted to go straight through it. And the one time we just took the Jeep Wrangler straight through the fucking field.
Wow.
Straight
With
to
somebody
the
on the roof?
Yeah. No.
Wow.
Yeah, for part of it. But he also was into Jackass back in the day. So he has a plethora of all these weird videos of like drinking piss, slapping each other. But
shit.
the one crazy thing is we are Pepe, aka Brad Snyder.
Okay.
Shout out. We put him into a fat suit, and we wanted him to do a backflip off the roof. So he did a backflip off the roof and it just broke his femur or leg. Like,
shit.
and you hear the snap and you hear him freaking out. And I remember Kyle was so pissed because that was his sweatpants and they had to cut him when they were going to the hospital.
Oh, no.
But
His homie's there with femur broken. He's like, my sweat.
Yo, that's a big deal, dude.
I know. If they were Ralph.
When you go to the hospital and they cut your shit off, I hate that.
The other time was it was more recently, I guess it was a couple years ago, 3 or 4. R.I.P. Mark Tobosh. we always would shoot guns and just do whatever you're drinking and shooting guns. So he had the idea to shoot a propane tank. So you have to light a fire next to it. Oh, shit, I shouldn't explain how you do that.
No, go ahead, dude. If
here's how you make an atomic bomb.
This part of the conversation is only for 8 years old and up.
We have like several 8-year-old listeners, but they're 8 and up.
It's a running joke on this show that if you're 8, you have to do what you got to do.
We have to light a fire next to the propane tank because that's how you light it, because you can't shoot it just straight. So he shot it, blew up, and then right away the whole entire forest was on fire.
Holy shit.
And they were just like running with guns with bottles of water and everything. They couldn't get it done. So the fire company has to get it there. And luckily I'm in a small town, so everyone is just like, the first guy that shows up is just like, Mark, what'd you do?
Dude.
And he's like, and there's an iconic photo of everyone behind him, and he's sitting there with a red cup. And he's just like standing there. So what he did, because everyone's friends, he bought $500 worth of pizza and whatever, and then treated all the firefighters to like lunch for the day.
Incredible.
But
This is incredible.
Literally, the forest was engulfed.
Yo,
in
if you're
flames.
listening, I want you to imagine being reasonably innocent kids. Like you were just blowing off steam. And the result was you started a forest fire with a propane tank and ran away with guns.
Well, like, yo,
like, you know what I mean? That's very high level.
Think about the
mischief.
forest fires. No, but think about the forest fires in California, like the ones that get really bad.
Yeah.
They probably start with some normal shit like that.
I
like
know.
little kids, every little kid goes through a pyro phase.
Oh yeah,
I don't care.
still there.
I don't care
for
where you
sure.
grew up. I don't care what part of the world. There's a part in time where you and your friends discover that fire is crazy.
Dude, that was another thing that my dad like just gave me. He was just like, "Oh, you're 11. You need a pocket knife and Zippo."
Pocket knife is survival.
I'm like, dude, I didn't even know why yet.
That combo.
I was like, okay, and so I just had both, and I remember having them in my backpack. But the world was a totally different place. I remember always having them in my backpack because my dad told me I'd need them,
Me too.
and then
I
I
had
would
them too.
do any number of these fucking things with them.
You're fighting
like,
people and just
dude. I
letting
used to.
things-
It was funny, like holding a very dangerous weapon. I would sharpen and make other dangerous weapons. It was
absolutely.
retarded. I was like.
You're just creating an empire.
I was just like building these spears out of my already dangerous knife, or like, yeah, just lighting shit on fire, dude. I was weird. I did all kinds of.
You know how people carve their name in trees and shit?
Yeah.
Well, we used to. The woods was like our sanctuary for kids because you're out of the way of regular people. You can do all your pyro shit. And one day we were at a keg. And I'm looking up at this tree and I see like JD Loves Nancy, like Led Zeppelin, like, and it's really high up. And I'm like, me and my boys, you know, we're probably all stoned. We're looking at that and we're like, yo, how the fuck did they get up there? And one of my boys is like, yo, asshole, the tree grew. And yo, that fucked me up so bad. I was like, we literally stopped for like 5 minutes and said nothing.
Wow.
We were like, yo, that is the coolest shit I've ever seen.
Straight school.
It was like 1960. It was all the way up. We were like, damn, shit's crazy. How'd they get up there?
All right, Coyle. Weirdest situation
All right.
you ended up in
I'm
at
not
the
gonna,
youngest age. Don't incriminate anyone
All
because
right.
I feel like yours is about to be insane.
I'll just give you a couple from high school. Ready?
Okay.
We used to go to North Philadelphia to get marijuana.
Right.
There's a couple open air markets that I don't think are there anymore. Whether they paid the cops off, I don't know how it worked, but it did. Fairhill and Luzerne. There was like a lot of stores. KC Grocery, Del Mar. These were stores, legitimate, like little corner bodegas. You would go in, literally hand the dude your money, and you would get weed.
Nice.
So we would go before school. I went to a Catholic school. We wore uniforms. We would go in our uniforms to North Philly and get herb. Okay. So one time we thought we were cool because we would go down there. No one would fuck with us. The reason they wouldn't fuck with you is because you're business. So they wouldn't want to rob you because you're business. So like we felt comfortable in this uncomfortable setting, like where any normal person would not want to be in this area. So we were at a house party. Long story short, there was a girl my buddy was trying to hook up with. She's like, it would be really cool if somebody had some weed. And we were like, yo, we can get weed. They were like, where? And we were like, oh, North Philly, like just give us a ride. So we get in this car and my buddy's driving. We go down to 8th and Butler at maybe 2 o'clock in the morning.
Feeling totally well.
Feeling like we're ready. We're right in the middle of it. And they tell us to pull over. Number one, wrong. You don't pull over, right? Yeah. So we pull over and I'm in the back seat and a girl is passed out with her head in my lap, right? And I'm like, I just didn't feel right. And all of a sudden, they surround the car. They try to open up the passenger's door. It's locked. And I see a gun come through the driver's side to my friend's head. Aish. And I hear a knock. I look over and a guy has a gun on me. and they're like, get out of the car. Is that a girl in the car? Get out of the car. And I'm like, oh my God. All I hear is the guy in the passenger seat yell, gun it. And he throws the car in drive. We run over one of the guys that was they boxed us in. People were standing in front of the car.
Shit.
We ran over the guy in front of the car, up over the top of the car. We're gunning it, and we hear gunshots in the back. That was just like one of the times.
Holy
that was the
shit.
first time I've ever had a gun pulled on me. I think I was 15.
Holy shit.
16. Another time, OxyContin had just came into our neighborhood. It was 1996, and
Jesus Christ.
It was before school. We went down to Fairhill. It was crazy. They would just have a car in the middle
Just
of the
a
block.
reminder, please. Only 8 years old.
Oh, and it's not there anymore. It's not there anymore.
Okay.
Weed's like super legal. I don't think it's there anymore. Might be though. And they would just have these giant nickel bags all on the hood of a car, and they would have lookouts on the roofs. Like it was a business.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying the name is because it's not there anymore, guys. Yeah. Right? The weak, the innocent are protected. The uninnocent are protected is not there anymore. This is fucking 20 some years. Is it over?
Yeah.
So
it's a Whole Foods. Now.
Yeah. So cops would just look at the cars pulling in and out of the block, and it just happens one day they picked ours, a state trooper. They wait till you get 3 or 4 blocks away from this actual place because they don't want to alert them that they're picking cars off. I didn't know that my friend had a bottle of OxyContin 80 milligram pills in the glove compartment.
Jesus.
So we get pulled over, and right away I told him the truth. We're in our Father Judge uniforms in the middle of North Philly. Father Judge is so fucking far. So we can't say we're going to school. We can't say we're going to like 7-Eleven. There's no reason for us to be in that neighborhood, right? These are the guys with the boots. They got the buzz cut haircuts. They got the fucking the patent leather brims on the caps. Like, dude, these dudes are no fucking joke. State troopers.
Yeah.
So they're like, what are you guys doing down here? And I'm like, pot. And he's like, get out of the car. So we get out of the car. They're searching us and everything. And I hear the glove compartment open. I think nothing of it. I look over to my buddy who's on the left of me with his hands on the car. And the look on his face was like the most grim I've ever seen in my entire life. And I hear a pill bottle shaking. Clack, 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 clack. Now, mind you, this is when OxyContin just came out. So the dude brings the bottle of pills back. He's like, what are these? My buddy's like, and he said the illest shit ever. He was like,
I thought that's what he described it as.
he was like, I think he said creatine.
Hell yeah.
And I looked at him,
Wow.
I looked at him, and with my eyes, I said, creatine? That was the best shit you could come up with, creatine? That was the look. That was the look I gave my man, right?
Oh, Jesus.
Then they're like, they go over and they huddle and they're like, well, where's the pot? I pull it out of my pocket. I had this really dope glass bowl too.
Yeah.
Smashed it. I was so hurt. And they're discussing what they're going to do with us, right? And just as they're about to lock us up, impound my friend's car, charge us, every single OxyContin was an individual charge at the time because they were so fucked up. My buddy pulls the old Hail Mary, the fourth quarter John Elway, my uncle's a cop. Oh yeah, fourth quarter, and here's where it gets good. They stop and they're like, "Who's your uncle?" And he's like, "Not only is my uncle a cop, he is the sergeant of."
Oh,
His uncle was a high-ranking, like a white shirt, like a
definitely
captain.
don't say his name.
So my friend says his name. They say, if you can call him on a phone right now, we'll talk. My friend gets his phone out, calls his uncle, hands the cop the phone. They talk for 5 minutes. They hand my friend back the keys. They put the pills back in the glove compartment. They say to us, if we see you back down here again, we will beat the shit out of you. This is what your uncle told. Your uncle told us to tell you this, and he wants you to go to his house right now, both of you.
Wow.
So we go, and his uncle is like, "You guys use my name?" In the middle of North Philly, wearing 2 Catholic schoolboy uniforms, pulled over on the side of 5th Street. You guys use my fucking name? He's like, "Do you have any idea what type of bullshit that is? Are you out of your fucking mind?" He's like, "Do you know what you were just about to get charged with?" He's like, "Honestly, I don't know. I don't think a beating is worth what just happened right now." He's like, "You guys owe me. All summer you worked for me." He's like, "It's over." He's like, North Philly is cut off.
Everyone has been in that much trouble that it's just over.
Yeah, like
It's
there's like no words are good for what we just did. Like, but by doing that, it saved us,
Dude.
So there
crazy.
was no other options. I don't have any family in the municipal police department. I got no Hail Mary.
Dude, that was that you fucking lived up to the expectation. If anyone out there is an animator, please animate that whole story.
Yeah, I could go on
we'll
for like
post that shit to YouTube.
From my the friends that I hang out with that grew up in North Philly, they have so many stories that are similar to
It's
yours.
insane,
with the
dude.
guns getting pulled, and then he has photos actually of like the bullet going into the headrest sort of thing.
That's crazy.
A thing they used to do is called Bahaing. Did you hear
No,
about that?
let's tell us.
It sounds great.
They used
Again,
to
you
steal-
cannot Baja under 8 years of age.
Back in the day, you could hijack any car, so they would break into these cars like a Jeep Cherokee.
Oh, and the old Toyotas were real easy. You could just use a screwdriver.
So they would take these two cars and they'd go, they'd steal them, and then they'd go to this abandoned lot, and they would just rally them around and then
Holy
crash
shit.
them into each other, and then just leave the car.
So not even stealing them for their value.
No,
just the
they're
fucking
stealing and crash them. And they said
Wow.
like a couple times they said they both stole a car and then they both slammed into each other at an intersection and they just bailed and then ran out. Like
That's crazy.
Dude, I have so many stolen car stories.
I mean,
Kind of fucked up, but true.
That's nuts. So, I mean, Philly's still pretty gully, but I'm guessing these are from a time where it was just out of control.
This is
For
early.
sure.
This is early. This is 1995. The first story was like 96, 97. And the second story was like, 96, 97. I think I was a junior in high school. So, yeah, right around that time.
So, two guys who grew up in Philly. I'll start with you, Evan. Give us like, this is the most Philadelphia shit ever story for you.
I didn't grow up in Philly, but ever since like in high school, I was going to shows down here. But I mean, you see people get shot. You see like that sort of shit. Like, I mean, recently at my old studio up in Kensington, someone got like, you get shot at 2 p.m. during the day, and you're just like, holy fuck, like
Jesus. So you see like dude buckled over the whole thing.
They see him running through the parking lot, everything like that. In college, I saw someone get shot in the ass out front of a party, and then they drug him to the Diamond Street, and it was just like the guys just yelled, that got shot, just sounding like, I'm gonna get that motherfucker.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you get shot in the ass, you're mad, dude.
Yeah, you're just like,
Dude, I get shot in the ass, I'm done. I'll move.
yeah, I mean, Philly, seriously.
That's crazy.
I mean, I like knock on wood, nothing ever happened to me when I was like in college or anything like that. But like, you just hear horror stories. I mean,
yeah, I think to a degree you have to get in the element, right? Like you have to, to some extent, put yourself where you don't belong or be in a.
My whole thing is like, if it's super late at night and I'm like this dude, like college, I would just like walk with a limp, like I was some crazy person, like act crazy, like say weird things, like ooh, you're pretty, you know? It's like
You're pretty.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to fuck with
pretty.
crazy.
Or like you, I think I would like just shit myself just to like, and just like put it all over yourself. Like they don't want to fuck with you after
It's
you have
better
shit.
than getting shot. Smear your own
might
shit on
actually-
yourself.
You know what?
What's
They won't even
crazy?
punch you if you smear it on you.
In prison, that's actually a defense mechanism for people.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of dudes when they're scared, like, and this is fucking people that are like really crazy. You have to be a little bit crazy dudes. The people that are petrified of being raped.
Yeah, I would say shit would be
don't know.
preventative.
They just don't shower, ever. Like, and they want to smell so bad that it's literally disgusting to the person.
Repulsive.
I guess
Yeah.
I would go that route.
Yeah, well, actually, you can go to the hole because
It's called skunking.
Yeah, well, actually, no. The cops, you're not allowed to. You're forced to take a shower. They literally will drag you in and hit you with a hose if you don't. Like, yeah, you have to take a shower.
So then that
hit you
guy's
with a
clean.
hose?
Is there someone waiting? Like, I've
I
been
don't
waiting
know.
for
Like,
you to get
he's
clean.
on the menu now. Nah, I don't know about that, but one of the Philly things that's only, well, I don't know about. I can't go anywhere else, but was the open air drug market. There were certain blocks, like I won't name the blocks, but certain blocks would have a certain type of prescription. Yeah. Like this block would be known for like Viagra. This block would be known for promethazine syrup. Like they would have, like they would call them lick shots. We used to call them. That block would just have that. Then you have the pot block. Then you have the cocaine block. Like these were, and they're all like open middle of the day. Like cops, no one's stopping it. No, because
that's crazy.
If the cops lock up the guy selling it, usually they're under 18, right? They go all the way through the system for what? A little bit of probation. There's a guy right behind him. Yeah. You can't stop it by doing that. It's like putting a fucking piece of gum on a hole in a fucking dam.
Right.
That's impossible.
That's still how Kensington is today, though.
Absolutely.
It's almost, I watched The Wire. I finally finished it.
The Wire is amazing.
I was like, holy shit, this is exactly like Philly. Put everything in one
crazy.
area and it just keeps moving around. It just keeps going north and north.
Yep.
It's
Not to entice anyone, and I don't think that there's a good answer. Again, like we are not promoting or trying to make this sound cool or whatever. This is all
that shit.
This is all ass.
lives,
But I'm curious of what's the quality of product in an open market Philadelphia?
Surprisingly, back then there was this video store, right? It's not there anymore. Super closed. In Wyoming, right?
Let's keep it to pot. I'm pretty comfortable talking about pot.
They were known,
could you get good pot in an open market?
This place was known. They were called pillow dimes, right?
Yeah.
So we would go down there, and this is the coolest shit ever. And I'm not making this up. If I'm lying, I'm dying. I put this on my fucking pinky. Yeah. So you would walk in, and it would be VHS tapes lined all the walls, right? Yeah. And they had an adult film section in the back. You'd go through the beads, like the hanging beads.
Yes.
And on the left, there was a little slot. Like that was a cutout in the wall underneath of a shelf that's like 2 feet off the ground, like one of the lower levels.
A glory hole?
Yes. So when you would walk in there, if you turned around and you looked at the camera and made like a motion like, yo, I'm not here for fucking movies, you would hear a slot open and a hand would come out like this. You would put your money. You put your dick in it. No, you put the money in the hand.
How'd that happen?
You put the money in the hand.
Different hand signal for that one.
The hand would disappear. The latch would go back over, and like a second later, the hand would come out with your weed.
Wow.
And this went on for a good year, and the weed was fucking. Now, when Hydro came out, we thought it was the greatest shit ever because there was Kind Bud, right? Which we only had a couple kinds in Philly. It was either swag, bullshit, Germantown, like. Sticks and seeds, all that bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Or it was Hydro, which was no seeds really, and it was green. It tasted good, but it was nothing like what I would imagine is out today. Yeah. And then there was Kind Bud, which is basically like a lower form of what's out today, and that was very expensive. So to find one that's not quite as good as the Kind Bud, but better than the Hydro for $10, and you got a big ass bag, you could sell it for $20. So that's what we would do. We would go down there because we were the ones that were like. Stupid enough to go down there, and also hip enough to know where it is. And we would come back to the neighborhood and off it for $20.
That's crazy.
Did this one
enterprise?
This one time in high school, we sold. It was just lettuce with pepper in it, and we wrapped it up in tinfoil and sold it to our kids for like $5.
Oh my god! I've always heard that. I've never done
like that too.
Oregano, and you're like, hey.
Do you have an experience or a story of like the first time you went from like. Because everyone kind of starts on sticks and seeds, Reggie or whatever.
Yep.
What was the first time like you had a strand, and do you remember how different it felt? Like for me, for example, my dad smoked pot when I was a kid. So the first time I ever
learned it from watching you, man.
But he was always open about it, and
I respect it.
It was no big deal.
Hell yeah.
But the first time I ever went for his stash was well into my own pot smoking career. So so I was buying $20 eighths or whatever, like nothing fancy. And then I graduated one day to what my dad was buying on a great salary from a private dealer. And dude, I thought it was like a different drug almost. Like I was like, oh, this is
kind of is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? But you have an experience?
Well, no, you can't even find middies anymore, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if they I was thinking that like brickweed, like the kind that gets smuggled up from like the shitty parts of weed growing Mexico and shit like that. Yeah. The brown shit. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that exists anymore because why would you buy it, right?
Yeah, it's so hard. I mean, sometimes like the low THC is probably something I fuck with, but I don't know. Some people like Mexican mids. The one guy does. It's just like not getting too fucked up. That shit makes me tired. So I'm just like,
now I'm to the point where like I'll dose myself. Like because it's so regulated, I could be like, oh, I only need like 2 puffs of this.
Isn't that crazy?
Depends what I'm doing. If I have to come on this podcast and talk to people, no fucking way. If I got to write an email, no fucking way. But if I'm on a computer going through a million photos or something, sure.
Evan will tell you too that when I don't know what I'm doing, like if I just eat an edible that I have no idea what the milligrams are, I lose my fucking mind.
The one time, so we both take 50 milligrams, and like we had a whole 100 milligrams, and then I go to the bathroom for 5 minutes, and I come back, I was like, I ate the whole thing. I was like,
my man,
dude, my thing was like, what do I do with a half-bitten gummy? Like I'm not putting it in my pocket.
Why? Like it wasn't hitting me. I was like, it's about to.
Dude, I beelined for a lobster roll so fast.
Our biggest competition, I want to let you know, Ev, is Joe Rogan, right?
Fuck
us and Joe Rogan were like right
every week. It's like who's on top,
fucker, man, right? So now, but on his podcast, he used to have this comedian Joey Diaz, right? Coco Diaz, and he used to talk about these gummies called the Stars of Death. And there's 600 milligrams, I believe they were, and he used to eat them like candy.
Yeah,
and he talks about a time when he ate too much of it. and he felt like he had like an out of body experience.
Dude, it is a totally different drug. I don't know how else to put it.
I know if something's called the star
I wasn't
of
stoned
death,
that day.
No, neither was I. Was like I was on a different level too.
Dude, we walked like 15 miles, Coyle, to put it in perspective. Me, like this, in worse shape than
like
this.
this.
Yeah, but
in worse shape than this. I was just like, okay.
You thought you had robotic legs.
Dude, I thought I had someone else's. I thought I had Dikembe Mutombo's
That
legs
was the funny-
specifically.
Yo, I
legs
feel
of
like I'm
Dikembe.
Dikembe right now.
Dude, that's
dog.
literally what I was saying. I was like, yo, do you notice how much longer my legs are? I have Dikembe
What
Mutombo's
sucks is,
legs.
like after I got sober, pot got all awesome on me. Like, you know what? It sucks. Like, and I don't.
And let's not trigger you, dude. Sobriety is 1,000
Oh no!
times
Listen,
cooler.
guys, I'm good. Like, listen, I'm good. It's been a really long time. Like, I miss certain things and stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm okay. Right.
Right.
The thing that I kind of miss the most is the actual ritual of it. Like, I really enjoyed the rolling process and like just the little things that go along with, not necessarily even the feeling of it, not necessarily even the narcotic part of it, the actual calming effect of it's a skill, it's a trade. Like, you learn little tricks.
Dude, you know what's so funny about that? I am exactly the opposite. Like, I've always liked, like, if it's flour, I just like a little glass pipe to myself. If
I
it's,
dig that too.
If I can have a pen that I know, like, 3-4 pulls on this, I prefer that.
I hear
Whenever
you.
I see somebody fucking suck a blunt and all the whole, I'm like, nah, I'm out. Like,
I
I
like
really don't like the whole
joints for my shit.
Yeah.
And I remember the day I found out, like, you always get hip to certain things, right? Like, I remember the first time I saw a guy take a Dutch Master, right? And unwrap the first layer, crack the second layer, roll the second layer, and then re-wrap that blew my
art.
shit.
Yeah.
There's this new shit I saw, right? Where it was on It's Teddy's video, where dude rolls a joint in this crazy way backwards.
Oh yeah, right. I've seen
And
that.
then he
Yep.
burns the
off
extra
excess.
paper off. Yo,
Yeah.
that shit fucked me up for like a day. I was thinking about that, like, damn.
But Teddy's a good example, like, because I see all the new age stuff on his channel,
Yeah,
and I'm like,
he's into
you will
it.
never see me get a nail and a blowtorch and I will never, dude.
expensive,
And then you
dude.
pull it out, and I'm like, is that even weed,
Dude.
And I just nah.
My roommate used to do that, and I used to call it the dabosphere. And I used to
Yeah.
just, when he smoked it, I would just wave. I was like, "See you later,
Dude, to me, that's a whole
Dude,
different
crack.
thing.
It's crack of weed, literally.
It's like a whole
What are you
different
getting
thing.
done on that? Nothing.
Nothing.
Nah,
Yeah.
dude. I like to be the kind of high that makes you want to eat applesauce and watch Zoolander. Like, that's it.
Yo.
Like, that's my level. I'm not trying to fucking bark at the moon.
I used to watch Half Baked on a loop. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you know, I always do that thing where it's like, Samson Simpson, I stick to my story. Like, there are certain parts of these movies like that are just like The Usual Suspects, right? With Kaiser Soze, the greatest trick Coyle ever pulled was convincing hype beast he didn't exist.
It's true.
Like, those type of things. Like, movies are really cool. I hate to say it. Kids, 8-year-olds. I'm kidding. Right? Pot sucks, dude. When you smoke it, your dick gets
You
little.
end up in hell.
Chicks think you smell like ass. It's just terrible.
I think it's better to get into it later in life.
It
rather than-
is.
Dude, you need to get so much shit straight in your life before
beginning, yeah.
before you can really.
I
even
wish
do it.
I would have done that, honestly.
Dude, even now, I will never, ever, ever do it before anything I take seriously.
That's what I was.
Yeah.
There's just no
with Joe
way on
Rogan, the
hell.
point I was making is he was having a pro-con debate over marijuana with an anti-marijuana dude, right?
Yeah.
An anti-legalization.
Ted
and
Nugent?
And they, but they were like, "Oh, what do you smoke weed all the time?" And he was like, "Not at all." He
If
was
you
like,
guys want to, by the way, if you guys want to stick it to Joe Rogan, just go to the Apple Podcast app and give us 5 stars and write us a comment.
Yeah.
That's how we keep beating him.
yeah, and then donate to Rack and myself, who take none of the money. We're just going to put it into products.
Oh
guys.
shit, that's true. Use the Anchor app to become a part of our Hall of Heroes. Shout out to two people. I only know Richie by name, and I'm sorry to the others. We're gonna
Oh,
get
Richie, thanks, dude.
We're gonna get some posts up. We've had 2 more people join. We're killing it in
Yeah.
that regard, and you guys, we're gonna bring you some cool product. You guys want to go a little longer? We're like, this is 10th episode, first guest,
Yeah,
extendo
man,
clip
keep
it.
going,
Still
dude.
going. What about
What if we let you, Ev Dog, steer it?
okay?
Go wherever you want to go with it for the extendo clip,
First,
longest
hit
episode
this
ever.
gigantic piece of wax.
Dude, but first, hit the like button, subscribe, whatever, fucking follow us. Go curse out Joe Rogan on Twitter.
I mean, God, man.
Come on, dude. I know. Put you right on the spot.
Right on the spot.
Right on the spot. What are some of your? Give me another interest of yours. You're like, yo, you guys ever fucking think about this or whatever?
I mean, I like shrooms a lot,
dude. Okay.
I do too. I really miss them. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
dude,
but no, I did it.
I'm gonna hug COYLE for an hour after this episode.
I think it helps with anxiety, and it helped me get over a lot of bullshit. Like it really did. Like I did it. I turned 30 and I was like, I need to do this. And I kind of like, you did it by myself. I've done it before, but it's like you have these ups and downs. But in the end, I came out being like, stop worrying about bullshit and get to the real thing.
I think there's definitely some value to some of the more medicinal drugs like marijuana and mushrooms. You know, to somebody like COYLE, though, you know, you've kind of fucked yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Like you've said to yourself, like, oh, I'm incapable of.
Well, there's like a switch, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, for me, for example, alcohol is out.
Yeah.
Like what I do when I get drunk, like the last time that I got drunk, right? I ended up down North Philly at 4:00 in the morning.
Right.
Like that's the progression that I have. My brain immediately, and once I lose control, like once I'm drunk, and I kind of my inhibitions kind of fade away. That addiction part of me kicks in high gear. And it's like,
dude, he described it to me the other day. He was like, yo, my addiction will just try to talk me into it. Like, yo, it'll be okay if you just like, if it's just weed and you just smoke a little bit.
If it's only this one time.
If it's only that, like the guys were just talking about it, it's fine.
Now it's getting legal. Yo, the legalization shit has been heavy with me, dude. It's like, yo, now doctors are saying it's okay, bro.
Yeah, my grandma was, she had a medical marijuana.
Yo, when grandmoms are smoking weed, my addiction is like, dog, grandmom's got it, dog.
She was making jokes. She's like,
it's a totally different ball game, bro, and I know you know that.
Yeah.
Let's go somewhere else. Let's talk aliens. I know you're fucking into aliens.
Yeah. So I mean, the alien thing.
Imagine being an hour and 14 minutes into this, and I'm just like, yo, I know you're into aliens.
Well, no, it's just blowing my mind because I think it's so interesting now that like it's 30 years later that things are actually checking out with some of the shit.
Well, the guy from Area 51, Kavor, or what was
Bob
he?
Lazar?
He was just on Rogan. He was just on Rogan.
Fuck Rogan.
Netflix did a special on
Fuck Netflix.
That doc sucked.
The doc sucked.
Yo, fuck that doc.
I don't know. Actually,
we should be on Netflix.
But it was good to like listen to that and then watch the doc.
Dude, when I'm on Joe Rogan, I'm fucking burning the whole thing down.
The guy from Blink 182 that left, Tom DeLonge.
He was crazy. But he's like, that's what they do is they add like schizophrenia, not schizophrenia, but like they send crazy people
to make it look even crazier.
Yeah. There was another one I just watched because that was called I Know What I Saw.
Wait. Let's back up just one second because if you're an audience member right now, you just heard schizophrenia and you're like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Give us a little background there. What's the schizophrenic?
Well, the whole thing is like, I guess aliens, and the best way to debunk it or make it seem crazy is to throw in these bunch of crazies and a lot of.
So they're like populating these areas or whatever with crazy
or they're
people?
just sending in people that are like insane that will go camping campers with alien like life forms, like spiritual, and
they go all the way. You know what I mean?
And kind of make it look like insane to believe in it.
When it's really not that insane when you think about it. Like they said, just in our like little part of space, right? There are certain places that they think human life can exist. Like when they just look at the makeup of the planet, right?
Yeah.
Now in our little solar system, in our little galaxy, like it's so infinite. Like there, what's his name? Yeah. Neil deGrasse Tyson was trying to explain like how big space is. And he's like, dude,
it's insane.
He's like, you can never fucking fathom it. Like to think that there's not one other life form out there is moronic.
Dude, it's insanely arrogant, if nothing else.
Well, it's the stuff that blew my mind was the fact that like he said he worked on 9 machines, and it literally I don't know if you can Google it, but they said one of them was found while an archaeological dig when they're looking for dinosaurs, and they came across an actual.
This is crazy.
Like middle thing. Like I didn't Google it, but like that's what they talked about. Like they're from different times and whatnot. Because
this all, by the way, was on our competitor Joe Rogan's podcast.
Well, sometimes you look at like how did like the 1500s to the 1600s, like nothing really happened.
Dude, even from the 80s to now seems super hyper accelerated.
1900s to like this century has been insane. Like
flight, space. Dude, there's been so many just within the last 100 years. It's ridiculous.
Do you realize how small achievements those are? Like if you believe in the idea of like a crashing spaceship or reverse technology. So I heard somebody say like, oh, in 1984, a calculator was like the size of like three rooms in a skyscraper, right? And by the next year, Texas Instruments sold them to you. You could fit them in your pocket. Yeah. So there must have been some kind of reverse technological engineering or whatever. But do you realize how far off you'd still be? Like if they got here, right? If they got here light years here in a spaceship that could do that fast enough, that could support their life, navigate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What we've managed to pull or understand from the technology that would have been left behind
Cavemen.
is so dumb. It's like dumb shit.
Cavemen.
They're like, oh, you made a calculator or you flew?
Yep, cavemen
cute.
shit.
They said primates are going into the caveman stage. Like like
wild.
orangutans are using spears to catch stuff. Like there's videos on that.
Yo, I'm gonna get a little far out here. I'm gonna get on my fucking Rogan steez here.
Okay.
Do you ever think about this? Like, so I think everyone here subscribes generally to like evolution, right?
Yeah.
We are the great ape or whatever.
Yeah, we didn't
and we've
just pop
evolved.
up.
Like we're not. I mean, if you're religious at home, that's fantastic. I mean, to some extent, I'm definitely spiritual or whatever.
I am also spiritual.
but I've got a tailbone, so I realize that
I'm spiritually grounded.
Something's going on, right? But do you ever think that like maybe by creating the tools that we do, that we've slowed down our evolution? Like, because we don't have like we can ensure that our
physically.
next generation.
Perfect example.
Right?
We're less
The
muscular,
cell phone has dumbed down everything. Like everything is at the touch. Yo, I remember before when you had to drive.
Yeah.
Without having a fucking GPS.
Well, just think about it even further back, dude. Like, if you think about the first people, right? Like, now they're people. They're not apes anymore. They're not whatever. They're people, okay? Everything was an incredible challenge, like, to survive, right? Like, you got your girl pregnant, and then suddenly you have a screaming, alarm, soft-bodied thing that's just calling predators to you.
Yeah.
It's just like, over here all the time. You know what I mean? Like, just imagine how you like, so for you to get to the next generation, like for your genetic code to pass, you had to do so much. You had to like learn to hunt and cook food and et cetera, right? Like I always laugh at, it's really funny to me that if I want a lobster, I can order it from Maine to my plate, right? But the first guy who came across that thing just bit it. And then it like pinched his face, and then he was like,
I love
and then he like
thinking about
threw
that
it back.
shit.
Do you know the story?
So 500,000 tries later, we eat lobster like we do. You know what I mean?
Like during the potato famine, Irish people didn't know what to do with lobsters, so they threw them away. They thought they were rats.
Dude,
How about
imagine
you
that.
just boil it and put butter on it.
But now
thought
we're
it
at
was
a
like a
point.
bug.
Yeah.
I bring all that up to say, like, imagine how quickly we evolved at that point, right? Now, if we have a problem, like we make a computer solve it or whatever, like how much have we slowed it down?
But back to your point of like, I don't think phones have made us dumber. I think it's made us smarter in the sense of you don't have to remember some of that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
look
you're
at
right.
You have the entirety of human knowledge in your pocket. I mean, to some extent, that's pretty dope.
Well, I always look at your brain as a hard drive, and now you don't have to store as many things up there. You can have
right.
like certain things that I don't have to worry about the weather. Some for me, spelling. I do not care
Dude,
anymore.
Stephen King's book,
Math.
Stephen King's book, Dreamcatcher. Part of it was that your mind is like a library.
Yeah.
So whenever you learn, like you have different parts of it, different sections, memories, you know, and whenever you want to like, at some point, whenever you want to learn something new, you have to like condense something to Iron Mountain. Like, you know what I mean? You have to let something go. There's only so much.
What would be the genes that would make your genetic pool more successful in 2019? Like, what would I think we'd maybe become more creative.
I would think like selvage genes.
No, but I'm saying though, like the people living the best lives right now.
Yeah.
I think that's how evolution practically works, right? Survival of the
I got
fittest.
a question. How do you guys think about sleep? Because I've been looking a lot about my sleep patterns are really crazy, right?
Yeah.
And I saw P. Diddy, right? Shout out to
whole
P.
conversation's crazy.
Yo, Puff.
Yeah.
Holler at me. When Puff was talking to, I just referred to him as Puff. When Puff
Like
was
he's your
talking,
friend.
he was talking about sleep, and he was saying like, "Yo, man, I'll sleep when I'm dead." He was like, "I only sleep like 2 minutes a night."
No,
and he's
dude,
like,
fuck
"I can
that,
function off. I can function off of no sleep."
Yeah.
And I saw a study that said 3% of the population has whatever gene, whatever physical that they don't need as much sleep as everybody else.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Maybe shit like that is like, I don't know, the next steps or whatever. Although I'm not into that whole like, I'm always working, never not working.
Well, they
bullshit.
don't know why you have to sleep except for the fact that you get tired. Like that's
yeah, like what
weird.
exactly happens when you're sleeping? You know what I mean?
Well, it's like your brain resets or whatever. But people say you log off. You know,
I don't know,
you go into
man.
simulation.
You know what's
theory.
crazy?
That'd be
There's a
weird.
drug called trazodone. It's a sleep aid, right? And it has a 15 to 30 minute window where it works, right?
Listen, if you're over 8 years old and you want to stay up, just stay up.
No, well, but trazodone and also another one. It's an antipsychotic called Seroquel. And when you take these drugs, your body is so zonked because of it, but your mind is awake. So you ever have a dream, and at the tail end of a dream, you know it's a dream, and you can kind of control it a little bit.
Lucid.
Well, this drug gives you that, but prolonged. So you literally remember like the whole dream. It's insane.
Dude, I think the reason that you sleep and the reason that you dream is so that you have some perspective in your waking life.
Well, John Lennon used to sleep for like 17 hours.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that like a
There's
whole thing?
There's
where
definitely
he stayed
value
in that
there.
world?
Like whatever the physical value is,
Yeah.
or the psychosis value. I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you. But if you could lucid dream forever,
Like Inception.
No, let me walk you all the way through this. You could go to it's not like
Let me
Inception.
navigate.
Let me try this for a second. Imagine you could go to sleep and decide how long you'd be asleep and everything that happened while you were asleep.
Okay.
You would create a life of fantasy, right? Like you would go to sleep, bang Jennifer Aniston, fucking become a world famous basketball player,
Go skydiving.
bring a championship to the
Yeah,
Knicks,
yeah.
whatever. You would do all of these things. And then eventually, let's say you're used to that or you spend most of your time that way.
Okay.
Right? Eventually, the only thing that's going to excite you is having a little bit of no control, right? So imagine then you could say like, okay, I want to control everything but the last 10 minutes. That would be your new, like, that would get you off.
That would be the one that was like,
Right?
yeah.
And eventually, long enough on this timeline, it's your waking life. It's what we actually live, where you have
don't control
no idea.
everything, right.
So I think the opposite is true. I think you sleep to get some sort of perspective of where you want to be or where you want to go here.
I got you.
For sure.
Right? I mean, that's everyone at home's just like, what am I listening to?
Rack, what are you talking about?
But I mean, I think that's the only thing that makes any sense to me.
All right. Back to this alien thing.
Let's go.
Well, the thing that bothered, like, so the whole concept, this Bob Lauder thing, he worked on the
Area
rocket-
51?
Yeah.
They literally said where he
So-
worked didn't exist,
Yes.
and now, yeah,
Well, they're
it
going to
did.
discredit the fuck out of it.
So the whole thing that would interest me was the reason why he became a whistleblower, went out on it was when he was working on it. So what they do is they were observing his family.
Yeah.
He does that for every employee to make sure they have a mental state that's fine for them to work on these things.
Right.
Which is crazy.
So you can't tell your wife that you're working doing this stuff. So
Right.
she starts to think he's cheating on her.
Oh,
So
Jesus.
she starts cheating on him when having an affair.
Oh,
So now the government knows this or whatever knows this. So they start taking him, declassifying and putting him in lower ranking positions.
Yeah.
So in his head, he starts thinking, they're going to off me. Like, this is
Oh,
it.
shit.
So,
Oh, that's a scary thought.
so what he started doing was for 3 weeks, he would bring everyone out to see the test flights. And that's the
yeah.
reason why he was doing it. The cover of his ass of like, hey, if I die, like,
Yeah, there's going to
this
be.
is it.
Yeah.
But eventually it just turned into like, okay. And then he exposes it and then they tell him like your wife was cheating on you and
This is
everything
crazy.
around that. And that's the reason why it went there. But
You
then,
think they were trying to make a loony out of him? Like, yo, just let
well, they
this
did.
dude lose
Well,
his mind.
After a while, yeah. And then once they like he whistle blew and everything, they were like, we are going to ruin your life. And basically say I talked about the aliens and they were coming at me. They went after all his friends and families. Like you would have gotten audited. You would have gotten audited.
Yep.
Like they would have like fucked you up for anything. They just want to destroy everything around you. So no one wants to be around you.
That's crazy. That's my excuse.
Yeah.
they literally want to make you look
If you don't like
insane.
me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or you want to follow me on Twitter, it's because, you know, they're trying to make
Well,
me
what
look
Rogan
nuts.
said about the dude, because they were like questioning why he would have him on. They were like, why are you going to have this guy on? Like saying this to Rogan. People were like, his friends were saying that.
Yeah.
And he was like, dude, he has too many points that are true.
Yeah.
Like,
It's crazy,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? If you think a person's saying a bunch of shit, but like 75% of what they're saying is documented, you kind of have to give them
Like,
some.
I don't like the idea of the government controlling information like that, and I certainly don't think that the government is very responsible about it. But a person is smart. Collectively, dude, they would just panic.
We the whole
and
thing.
fucking
They would
go
stop.
insane.
They would stop watching American Idol at 8:30. They would
Dude,
step out of their lives and
everything.
start questioning.
They wouldn't
everything.
literally believe in
Yeah.
their religions anymore.
Well, there's-
because religions are stories
Yeah,
written
yeah.
by men. Agreed?
Yeah, oh,
Okay,
absolutely.
cool. So awesome. And they needed to take place when they took place to control large
they
groups
had,
of people,
they had
right?
a desired
Yeah, yeah.
effect.
Okay, great. So if you're to this day very religious, you need that. That's what that means to me,
Yeah.
right? You need that. You need that governing force in your life. And by all means, enjoy it, right? I believe in a higher power at the edge of science. Anything I can't explain or cannot be explained, that's my definition of God. And I like to have some kind of understanding or relationship with it, right? But if you need formal religion, then you need rules and guidelines and an explanation at the very least, right? That goes out the fucking window.
Yeah.
If they're like, yo, here's an alien. Like, and he's just like, no, it was us. We put you here.
The part no.
Yeah.
You know, then all of a sudden, like, dude, imagine Jesus is just null and void.
Wow. What would that do to people? Like,
You know?
I'd have to Google who that is.
who's this guy you're speaking of?
No, but I mean, in all of society, for 2,000 years, the largest governing or influential force, right?
Catholic
and then
Church.
now there's an alien. He's like, nah, you're like an ant farm for us. Like, we just put you here with a little bit of our worst DNA to see what would happen.
I just think there's a part of technology or a part of science that they don't tell you about. I think that's the thing.
Definitely.
That's what they're holding you
Well,
on.
that guy was saying about he would take people to this vantage point where you could watch them test fly these aircrafts, and a couple of the witnesses were saying like it would make maneuvers that like normal planes can't make. So there's no way they were playing it off like it was like drone type shit, and they were saying that basically they could turn on a dime and fractal patterns and they were going like really fast, like speed of light type shit. And you know, are all these people crazy? Like, there's these big conferences, like flat Earth conferences, and like all
crazy.
these, well, yeah. But the UFO ones have been around for years, and some of these people now. All right, granted, there are some crazies in there that say like, for sure. Well, I was just eating dinner and these aliens scooped me up, and the next thing I know, I'm in a 75-person orgy, and it's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe that chick is crazy, but like. All of them from history, like all these people that say they saw something in the sky, like, okay, like remember when SpaceX, when Tesla did that shit out in California?
Right.
And all those people, it was on Instagram everywhere, right?
Yeah. Dude, War of the Worlds was broadcast on the radio and people thought we were literally being
That's what would
invaded.
happen. But imagine on some real shit. Imagine if a real fucking UFO popped up.
I think it would just change too much.
They say they're gonna fake a alien landing just so the whole entire world comes together, because once they do that, the whole world has to come together. Like us in Russia or whatever, we'd be like, yeah, we have to stick together.
Yo, imagine being a racist on the day that an alien shows
that's
up.
what they
You'd be
said.
like, my black brothers.
Yeah, but dude,
Unite!
9/11. When 9/11 happened,
that's what the one guy said though. He's like, yo, if you're still racist after that, it's like,
Dude, that's
then you're on your own
crazy.
different level.
I mean,
Like,
you're crazy as hell anyway right now if you're racist, but that would be insane if a whole different
still racist after
species.
that?
You're like, I still don't like you.
still racist. Yeah.
Yo,
Like,
dude,
what?
the Ku Klux Klan would probably like attempt to sacrifice entire races to the aliens or something just to hold on to their little fucking thing.
The other one that blew my mind was the one that was called "I Know What I Saw" is on Amazon Prime, but it was the fact that happened, I guess, back in the 80s or 70s of. In Arizona, about 20,000 people saw this thing, and they tried that. It's never been explained what it is, but it went from like Scottsdale down to Phoenix down to like whatever.
Yeah.
And the governor could not explain it. No one could explain it. But now, even nowadays, like it's 60-year-olds being like, yeah, like we all saw this. And it's like the same story about like the boomerang or whatever it is.
That's crazy.
So it's just like you get all those people, and they had to have like a government press conference where they brought in like an alien that was like, obviously look dumb to dumb it down, and like the people are like, yo, like what the fuck though, like what is this though, explain it. No explanation.
It's crazy. Dude, do you ever think about like the reality of the stupidity of humanity? Like we're talking about how humans would like an alien species coming and explaining our birth.
we're like a disease.
But like think about it, dude. If they were like, yo, we put you here, then instantly like religion's out. And if religion's out, then some of the stuff we've fought for and died for and whatever is ridiculous, right? And if they're just like, yo, you did what with the world? Like imagine better than alien, just imagine God. Imagine the being that gave you life,
Dude,
right?
the earth.
And you get up there and he's like, I gave you the whole earth and you divvied it up. And you built walls, and like you hated
Imaginary
people.
lines.
You hated people who came from 5 miles further south, and you know what I mean. And you fought each other over colors.
It's human
culture.
nature. We
Yeah,
used to
yeah.
fight the
Human
kids.
nature.
We used to fight the kids that lived on the other side of Frankfurt Avenue.
It's just insane.
Because
Why?
they lived over
Because
there.
they lived on the other side
It's
of
just
Frankfurt
so
Avenue.
dumb, right? Like, I just think sometimes it's funny that to think like we were just talking about aliens and all I could think about is the perspective it would give you.
Yeah.
But whether or not you believe in aliens, you probably believe in God or a higher power. It should give you that same perspective.
The day the Earth stood still was about them coming down to Earth, and they were about to wipe out humanity. And the reason was because we ruined Earth. And it was saying, like, if I don't kill you all now, it'll be unsalvageable. Like, the Earth is so beautiful that if I erase all humans, it'll go back to the way it was
just think
before.
about the way we've constructed like societal morals. Like imagine meeting God and he's like, "Yo, why didn't you do anything about those starving kids in Uganda?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm American."
Yeah.
You'd be like, "What the fuck does that mean?"
Yeah.
Like from up here looking down.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Like, yo, you know what really fucks me up? And I know this is really crazy.
we had our own
tangent.
problems in Philly.
Yo,
what the fuck?
There's this shit, shark fin soup, right?
Yeah.
These guys who go out in the middle of the ocean and they pull these sharks on board, cut the fins off, and throw the fish in the water.
It's crazy.
Throw the shark in the water. To me, that is the epitome of human. Like just the way that what we do. We're
sick,
fucking
dude.
we're fucked up, dude.
Savage motherfuckers.
To cut the fucking fins off.
Like,
Right?
But on a brighter note, I mean, on the brighter.
I'm sure there's other fish eating that shark that fall over.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
but just seeing it happen and seeing the video is just like, Jesus Christ, man.
I just think humanity in general, like, dude, pick anything, the most trivial thing, cosmetics. Fucking putting powder on your face so your cheeks are more red.
Yeah.
Like any little thing on a large enough scale, like you zoom far enough out, is so retarded.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
And using that word is inappropriate.
yeah.
But
Definitely
what,
is.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just think borders, religion, things that like we literally die and fight for would be so fucking silly.
Well, in the movie Blow,
the day that an alien showed
in the
up and he
movie
was like,
Blow-
"Oh, none of you were right about any of your
Anything,
religions."
yeah. What were the sex organs of the machine?
God
world?
lives on Mars. Like, you want to come meet him?
remember the movie Blow where Boston George gets arrested for 600 pounds of pot going across the border? And he goes in front of the judge. He's like, "Ma'am, listen." He's like, "What did I do? I'm a patriot." He's like, "I went across an imaginary line with some plants. Let's really, come on, I'm not the guy." and literally the judge is like, "You know what? You're right. It is an imaginary line, but it's a real line."
It's
and
crazy.
those plants were illegal.
Yo, there are hundreds of thousands of people behind the president of the United States to build a wall across that imaginary line to keep the browner
make it not
keep the
imaginary.
browner people over there
Yep.
because they're not our problem. How weird. Like,
Seeing those little kids in those
dude, and if you're a Trump supporter or whatever, all good, man. You know,
Yeah.
like we are definitely not
each
political.
their own.
I'm just saying, like I'm saying, even if you believe that wall should exist, zoom up 10,000 miles
You know
and
what the
then
most-
just
I'm
look
looking
how
at the
strange
map
it
right
is.
now.
Yo,
They
it's
asked-
crazy.
They
I'm gonna
asked
keep doing
Trump
the same thing.
The other day they asked him, and this is not a political show. This is a funny answer. They were like, they were like, "What are your thoughts on the border encampment and all the children being held separately from their parents? And like, what are your thoughts on the condition?" He's like, "Well, it's way better than it was under Obama."
And that's it.
And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What kind of answer is that?" Like,
Dude, anyway.
crazy, dude.
And that's how you take better sneaker photos on Instagram.
All right, I think we did a
Thank
good
you
job,
guys,
man.
Thank you guys for tuning in, Evan. Yo,
yeah,
thank you for
having
being
me,
the
man.
first guest,
Thank you.
man. And we hope to have you back, and we'll have some other people on, guys. You know, normally just the two of us, but every once in a while we'll do these.
Just the three of us.
Fuck Joe Rogan. We need you to go hit the 5.0, leave a comment. That's the best thing you could do.
And drop us a dime, dude. Get on
Share,
that anchor
copy,
app.
paste. Yo,
Cha-cha.
go follow Evan. That's what I want.
Evan.
Yo,
Evan.
go follow
Kaucher.
Evan. That's what you need to do right now.
EVAN.KAUCHER.
Do it.
Solid photographs, dude.
We'll see you guys next week.
Peace out.
Yeah.